So thank you guys so much for coming on. My name is Cal Ewing, and I'm a real estate investor based here in Canada, but my entire business is in Texas. And my main, strategy is wholesaling, similar to what Josh is doing. And the purpose of my meetup group, it's called U.S. Real Estate Investing for Canucks. If you're not a part of it, I'd love to have you come on board and join. And the purpose of it, I got it started just because I wanted to help educate other Canadians as far as investing in real estate south of the border. So I wanted to have a community for people to connect, share deals, share experience and knowledge, and then do a monthly webinar like this one that you're watching with different guests and different topics to hopefully help you maybe start something new in real estate or better your own business, grow your business and do more deals. Okay, so my special guest today is Josh Alter from, is it Tallbridge Investments or Tallbridge Real Estate, or what is it?
Well, previously it was Tallbridge Real Estate, but we've rebranded as Tallbridge Investments as we kind of scale up and grow and start to do a bunch of different things. So yeah, it's Tallbridge Investments.
Okay.
Our official corporate name now.
Nice. And you are similar to myself. You're based in Canada as well and in Vancouver, right?
Yeah. Live in North Van. Me and my business partner are here, and our office, our headquarters is based here in North Vancouver as well.
Okay, but you're mostly doing real estate south of the border.
Yeah, exclusively. Yeah, so we made a shift, I guess, a commitment to push into the U.S. about 4 years ago, and we also invest primarily in the state of Texas, Austin kind of being our primary market, but we've recently opened up into a new market. We're now in Atlanta and kind of pushing into quite a few other markets here in the next year.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Well, you and your partner are everywhere. I first got wind of Tallbridge. I was down in St. Louis taking a sales training course, and your guys' names popped up. So if anyone thinks that, it's hard to grow big and get your name known when you're investing from afar in a different market or a different country, you guys are definitely making an imprint in the U.S. market because I'm hearing from you about that. So
appreciate it. Yeah, that must have been, was that the John Martinez training?
John Martinez.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's good. I know Steve, my business partner, went to that, and we also had our lead manager go to his live boot camp as well, and I had done his 12-week online course too. He's great guy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
John, for sure. Yeah, so I guess let's just start by telling me a little bit about why you guys decided to invest in real estate south of the border, and then we'll get to our main topic, which is joint venturing.
Yeah, for sure. So I think probably like a lot of people, we actually initially started exploring this with the idea of doing it here locally, Vancouver, other markets in Canada, and like a lot of people, we went to one of those, real estate seminars. I think it was a Fortune Builders event here in Vancouver, a 3-day, and we went there with the idea of, we want to fix and flip. We want to build a rental portfolio. Both, Steve Enns and me were working full-time jobs, and we were happy, but obviously kind of had the idea of really building out something a lot bigger. And it was at that event where we had first learned about the idea of wholesaling and, the idea of, learning the business with minimal capital, really obviously piqued our interest. And that kind of sent us down, a few months of really just researching and tying into a bunch of different groups. And there was kind of a point there where we really made a decision that the U.S. presented a much larger opportunity for us. And, we've always kind of envisioned a business that we could systemize and scale, and wholesaling, was a great vehicle to do that. And doing it in the U.S. really kind of forced us to put a lot of thought behind how we could kind of grow this and scale it and really, operate it from anywhere. That I think was one of the reasons why we decided to go in the U.S. I think the other, being here in Canada, there's, certain challenges when it comes to marketing, right? And access to public information and records. And, as a wholesaler, so much of what you do, is really around the marketing and how you get in front of the right audience. And so we identified that pretty early on and wanted to be able to leverage a lot of the services and list providers that were available in the US. So I think those were kind of the two kind of main reasons why we decided to go into the US, and, a little bit of ignorance as well, but we just kind of went at it and picked Austin, Texas as a market. And here we are 4 years later.
That is awesome. Well, and you probably didn't have trillions of dollars in cash
No,
that you could buy in Vancouver either, right?
no. Well, no, fair enough. Yeah, price points and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just particularly here in Vancouver, right? It's a bit ridiculous.
yeah.
$1 million won't get you very far.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with wholesaling, and you may have noticed the same thing. Is I don't know too many wholesalers in Canada that have big successful businesses. I
Hmm.
think part of it is just like you cannot find that public information. Like in the States, if you guys are watching from Canada, I mean, you can pull probate lists, pre-foreclosure lists, tax foreclosure lists, people with equity, people that just got divorced. Like all of
Hmm.
that's available to market to, and in Canada, most of that's private, so it's really really tough to find motivated sellers.
Yeah,
So that was
yeah,
my
absolutely.
main reason too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think if we knew then what we knew now, like there are other ways, obviously, to go about getting in front of your audience of motivated sellers, online marketing,
Sure.
referrals. We'll talk about joint ventures, right? Because that's been a massive sort of lead source for us and a way for us to give back.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, there's just so much information that is available in the U.S. that if you can kind of get over the mindset of not physically needing to look at a piece of property, which is really a blessing as I see it,
Sure.
then there's, the sky's the limit.
So, well, let's talk about that. So,
Mhm.
how is your business built, and how are you able to wholesale from Vancouver?
Yeah. So, we've, over the years, we've sort of gone through evolutions in terms of, our staffing model and things that we would do here versus outsource. And we still very much rely on a lot of strategic partners to handle fulfillment of our marketing and advertising and the other things that we do. But from a staffing perspective, right now, relatively small team. There's myself and Steve. We're based here in Vancouver, North Vancouver. We have a full-time lead manager that's here with us as well. So obviously he's kind of on the front lines of really taking a lot of those calls that come in, right, in response to our marketing campaigns. My wife, Claire, supports us more from sort of a communications and sort of business consultation perspective. So a lot of the communication and marketing that we do, she's involved in that. And then in the States, so in Texas, we have sort of a core team of 5 down there. We have a couple of acquisition managers who work with us as independent consultants. So they're realtors, licensed realtors, but they support us when we need to get in front of a seller to close a deal.
Mhm.
We have a full-time operations transaction coordinator who's based in Waco, who handles all the sort of integration of the pieces that's required to make a deal happen, right? And
There's a
she
lot
does,
more than you'd think.
yeah, for sure. And then she does a lot of other things to support our joint venture program. And then we have a full-time dispositions manager who really kind of helps support all of the investors that we work with. We have a couple thousand buyers and investors now that we work with in different ways. So Lee is really driving that, and he's actually based in Lubbock. So it truly is a virtual team, right? Everyone
Yeah.
works from home office, other than the group that we have here in Vancouver, and we leverage technology and video calls and stuff to really keep in touch and try to create that culture, right? That's really really needed. But there's challenges for sure of doing it virtually, and particularly when it comes to managing salespeople, right?
Mhm.
And Steve, my partner, is much closer to that side of the business, and so we're really kind of shifting more and more to this idea of an inside sales team. We feel that we can scale that more easily. We can coach, develop, train, and really foster a culture that just is a fun place to work. And sometimes that's hard to do when you have kind of people distributed all over.
All over the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is definitely the challenge. Is you not. I mean, it's one thing to be on the phone or through email, but it's hard to sometimes get that bond, I guess, when you're
Yeah.
all over the place. That's
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
I see Steve's on here, so hey, Steve, how's it going?
Oh, awesome.
Um, okay, so when you were getting going, I mean, did you start with joint venturing, or did you just start doing direct mail and finding your own leads, or how did you really get that ball rolling to get to this point when you were getting started?
Yeah. So from a marketing perspective, we really didn't come to this business with very much money, right? And so it was kind of the hustle, right? We really focused a lot on for sale by owner lead sources like Craigslist and for sale by owner.com and Zillow. And we would really just aggressively go after sellers, people that were looking to sell privately. And so a lot of that was, quite literally Steve and I, in the evenings, early mornings before work and family time, just doing what was needed to get in front of sellers. And we managed to land a couple deals that way within the first few months. And then we were in a position to kind of reinvest. From a resourcing perspective, I think, at the time, I don't know that we realized, the importance of partnering, although we realized it was kind of a necessity for us to really, do what we needed to do to get deals done. So we were fortunate to make some great contacts really early on with a few key buyers and realtors and a particular hard money lender in Austin that really sort of worked in partnership with us and as an extension of our team. And so we were able to leverage those relationships to meet with sellers, validate, some of the assumptions we needed to make, virtually looking at deals and really kind of helped us to close some deals. And then eventually we, once the volume picked up, we were able to go out and hire, an acquisitions manager. And we've tried all sorts of ways of kind of going out and finding good people. A lot of these people that joined our team were actually other wholesalers, right? That were, they were kind of doing their own deals, people that we just managed to connect with through the different forums and just found kind of a strong connection. And I think what Steve and I have done a really good job of is really building out an organization and a process for how we run the business. And a lot of wholesalers out there, as you probably know, are sort of, they're independents, they're kind of working alone, and they don't necessarily have, all the pieces, in place, nor do they necessarily want to do all of those things. And so, we had several people that kind of came into our organization and became a part of our team, and we were able to kind of partner with them that way to get more deals done.
Well, that's really cool. Cause just from my own experience, as you know, it's a grind. I mean, when you're wholesaling, and especially if you're keeping some of the deals for yourself, depending on what your strategy is, you've got to balance your marketing and talking to your sellers. And then you've got to talk to your buyers. You got to find your buyers. You got to build that relationship. And then if you've got lenders, if you're doing it all alone, man, it can get really, really overwhelming. And I think that's why a lot of people end up not making it, is just trying to do too much on their own without those relationships.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not in that market, I think it's even tougher, right? So
for sure. And you sort of, as you kind of go through the process of a deal, you're naturally kind of pulled into different phases, right? And so, when you don't have a contract, which is obviously really typical when you're starting out, all your energy is focused on making sure the marketing's going out, making sure you're getting to those calls that come in, you're doing the follow-up, because it's all about the follow-up, right? And then you get a contract, and then it's a flurry of trying to find a buyer and title companies and coordinating that process and keeping in touch with the seller. So then the marketing and the pipeline dries up.
There's no more new leads.
Exactly. So so much of it is, is all about just the consistency, right? And sometimes that's really, really hard to do, right? Because you have to, in wholesaling, unless you get really creative, you have to kind of spend the money to make the money, right? And then you could go, when you're starting out, months without a deal, right? And
feast or famine, for sure.
For sure. And especially if you're at it by yourself too, you don't have the support. And so I think the opportunity to partner with other wholesalers has always kind of been at our core, and now is really a priority for us, because we realize it's such a huge opportunity for us to impact and help other people. But at the end of the day too, we all want to do more deals. And so, we're not greedy, and it's not about necessarily making the home run spreads. It's about helping people, getting more deals done, and, overcoming the adversity that you face, right?
Okay, well, I'm just going to step back just a bit in case any of you are watching don't really understand what wholesaling is. So essentially what we're doing is we're going out and marketing for motivated sellers that need to sell a property, and we negotiate with them. Depending on, different properties have different exit strategies. So you might identify it as a fix and flip type of a deal or a rental property type of a deal, but you're getting it under contract. And then typically there's other ways of doing it, but you're assigning that contract to another investor who's going to buy it and then keep it as a rental or fix and flip it or whatever they're going to do. And you're making money from that assignment in the spread. So you're getting it under contract for one price, and then you're assigning it to an investor at a raised price, and you're getting making profit there. So that's essentially what wholesaling is. So you're not buying the house and completing the project like some investors are doing, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's talk about this joint venturing, because I think a lot of people there's this competition mindset. A lot of people are like in it to win it, and they don't want to even talk to other wholesalers or other investors. And I think it's really, this market right now, it's very dog eat dog, and there's everyone, your taxi driver, everyone's a wholesaler, it seems like right now. And so how are you guys approaching these joint ventures, and what has been working?
Yeah. So, if we're talking about in the traditional sense, partnering with other wholesalers, right? For us, it's really just kind of being open, and ultimately, you need to align with people that share, the same value system and vision and priorities. And I think we've been pretty fortunate to make those connections. A lot of it comes from just, putting yourself out there, right? And both Steve and I really believe in an abundance mindset. And like, to your point, most people kind of, I think, gravitate to this idea of scarcity. Like, there's only so many deals out there, and I need to protect how we do what we do and all that. And I think we've always just felt that the more we kind of put out there and we share and we give and we tell in terms of how we do it, the more that will be reciprocated and come right back to us. And that has absolutely been the case, right? And even, so now, like, that is really kind of one of our top kind of mandates, is really putting out a ton of content, sharing, even the tools and the templates and our procedures, like all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, like, we spent a lot of time building that stuff out, but it's nothing special, right? We just spent the time to do it. And if we can share it and help other people kind of, build things up, at the end of the day, it will come back around in one way or another. So, I think that's kind of where a lot of these relationships have stemmed from. The other thing, that I think has really resulted in some strong relationships is around education. And Steve and I also believe heavily in continually sort of investing in our education. We go to multiple masterminds in the country a year, different programs, from wholesaling to multifamily investing to personal kind of self-development. Like, we do all of that. Yeah. And it's not cheap, but you talk to any successful entrepreneur out there, and most of them will tell you, they're spending $200,000 a year on their personal education. And you go to these things and you meet people that are like-minded and kind of driven by the same things. And next thing you know, it's, you're opening up a new market with them, or you're looking at deals together and figuring out ways to collaborate. So, I think those are kind of two things. It's the education piece and really kind of putting it out there and sharing, the good and the bad, that will naturally, help you make those connections with other people.
So when you say putting yourselves out there, is it more online presence, or are you?
It's more in Texas for the first years of doing business. Wow. It was kind of like, it was funny because we were doing deals, and people kind of knew of us as like the Canadians doing deals in Austin, and no one had really met us. And even at that time, we weren't very present online, right? And for the longest time, we kind of felt like, well, maybe we shouldn't go. Maybe it's kind of like it's kind of our charm, right? Like, let's not go. Eventually we did. And so we'll get down there a couple times a year, but most of it is social media. It's a lot of time on the phone, right? Both Steve and I and the rest of the team, like, we'll spend 4 or 5 hours a day on the phone talking to people, video calls. And now we're trying to really kind of put ourselves out there, right? And doing these interviews, for example, and Facebook Live. And admittedly, my partner Steve is a lot more comfortable. It's something I'm working on, and just realizing you got to put yourself out there. And it's awesome. Yeah. You do this podcast, it's you just got to get comfortable with that and realize there's a lot of value that we can all provide. And it's easy to kind of feel like your situation is unique and isolate yourself, but the more you put yourself out there, the more good things will happen. So that's what we're really working on this year. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. And I mean, this is the reason I'm doing this too, I mean, this day and age, social media and video and everything, I mean, that's promotion right there, right? So, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said keeping things private and, not sharing your secrets. I think that's the opposite approach, because that abundance mindset, that there's enough deals out there for everybody, and sharing knowledge. And a lot of times you share that knowledge and you provide value to people, and they just want to work with you.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're not going to steal what you're doing. They're going to want to work with you a lot of the time. Anyways, that's what I found. Anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you're gonna go through the struggles, you might as well go as a tribe, as opposed to just kind of heads down grinding against it. And it's easy to do that, right? It's sometimes the best thing you can do is just kind of open up, share, or step away, right? And then allow for some space and things to develop. So. And I owe a lot to Steve, my business partner. He's really kind of helped me, because my tendency is just heads down, kind of go. I'm pretty analytical, and so I have the benefit of a great partner, right? And we complement each other very well that way. So
absolutely,
yeah.
So when we were on the phone the other day, you said that in your wholesaling business, these joint ventures are kind of like your backbone. So you're doing your own deals, but you're also joint venturing a lot. So just explain how one of these comes into play. Like how do you get one going? Are you, marketing your deals to other wholesalers and they're finding your buyers, or vice versa? Or just how does that even look if someone were wanting to use that model in their own wholesaling business?
Yeah, for sure. So, when we network, we're networking with everybody, right? Realtors, investors, lenders, wholesalers, almost all of these people are on our primary distribution, right? So when we send out, whether it be, content about what we do, our deals, it's going out to the masses, right? So there's that. We also, we promote, our business and our investment opportunities, quite publicly across all sorts of channels, from, tons of 20, 30 Facebook groups, Craigslist. There's all sorts of private listing sites out there. So we go really, really broad, but, in terms of our wholesale partnerships, there's, with other wholesalers, there's really, they kind of support us on both sides, and we kind of are the glue, right? So we have certain individuals that are, really kind of integrated into the front end of the process, where they're really good and kind of getting out there and identifying opportunities, but perhaps don't have a ton of experience, and they want to leverage our ability to close deals, right? And so they'll bring us sort of a warm lead, and then our lead manager or sales team will get involved and really get in the contract, and then we'll take that through, right? There's other individuals that are great at getting contracts, but maybe they don't have a great buyer's list, or they don't have the capacity time to kind of handle the whole process of getting the deal to close. So then they'll come in, and then we'll handle the disposition and the transaction coordination. And then on the other end, there's a few strategic relationships where, it'll be our deal. The marketing will come in, we'll lock it up, and for whatever reason, maybe it doesn't match the typical profile of our buyer, or it's in a market that's outside of our core. We'll then kick it over to another wholesaler who's more established in that market to help us sell the deal. So, they kind of tie in all areas. At the end of the day, it's we look to just kind of integrate our process and allow, for people to really just kind of come in, and even some of these people, they'll participate in our team meetings. Like, we really just kind of open things right up, right? And allow people to become a part of something, bigger. And I think that's kind of what we realize. We all want to be a part of something bigger, right? And this is a great way to do that. So,
and I guess that comes back with, they see it in social media all the time, building that tribe, like building that following of people that are buying into what you're doing and allowing them to be part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because in my experience, I've had situations where, I had one wholesale deal where it ended up, I didn't even know, but the end buyer was like 3 chains down from who I thought I was selling the house to.
Yeah.
So this is different, right? This isn't just someone saying, hey, I might have a buyer for your house that you just blasted out to your list. You're making these relationships ahead of time before there's a deal, or is it kind of like just as the deal pops up?
Yeah, it's kind of both, right? Because there's often new relationships that will step forward and say, "Hey, I saw your property, and on this Facebook group, and I think I got a buyer for." And I said, "Okay, we're open to absolutely open to that, but it's about establishing a relationship and having clear expectations going into it." So one of the things I think you see out there a lot is what you're saying is like the daisy chain, right? So someone sees a deal come out, and then they basically rebrand it or bump up the price, and then they push it out, right, to their network. And then to your point, next thing you know, it's like 3 chains down the line, and there's so many different people involved trying to get a cut of the deal. And so, I think in our experience, we found that doesn't really work well. And in our opinion, isn't really a true partnership, right? Like, you're basically, as an example, you're taking one of our deals, you're just marking it up and selling it. I would rather say, okay, let's work together. Let's say, okay, this is the spread that we have built into the deal. We're happy to split that with you. And let's truly collaborate and partner to get the deal done. And the same on the acquisition side. If a wholesaler brings us one of their contracts, we will very rarely mark it up and send it out. We want to be promoting it at the same price that they want to, that they have it promoted at. We're working together to get the deal done. We both make a little less, right? But then we're collaborating. You're handling the seller side of the relationship. We're handling the buyer side of the relationship. And the probability of us getting this done without complication is much, much higher. So that's kind of how we tend to work it. And then in terms of like fee splits and all, I know that's something you wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
It kind of depends a bit, right? In terms of kind of who's bringing what and at what stage the lead is at. But in a typical kind of black and white situation, you bring us a locked up contract with the seller, and we go out and sell the deal to one of our buyers. Assuming there's not a lot of heavy kind of upfront work we have to do on the acquisition side, it's like 50-50 type of arrangement in our
Sure.
So
yeah. Okay, that makes so much more sense, because I find a lot of people, again, it's this competitive thing, and people just want to tack on more and tack on more. Yeah. And in the end, you're not serving your buyers, because you're taking all the meat out of the deal for them. And either they're going to buy a bad deal or you're not going to be able to close on that deal, and no one wins. No one makes any money on it.
No,
so
for sure.
Makes a lot more sense for sure.
Yeah.
And I would think if you're starting out as a wholesaler, and I get this a lot from people here, that they like the idea of wholesaling, they don't know where to start, they don't have a buyer's list. That is a really good place to start, right? You can find those deals and put your effort into that, and finding someone like you guys who are willing to do a JV on a deal, and you guys do the back end. That is a perfect way to get going and build yourself in a new market for sure.
Easiest way for sure. And now that we know what we know, like that's how we're mapping out our expansion plan, and then we want to push into 15 markets. And we're doing that by looking at, okay, who do we have in our network, establish relationships with, a track record of doing deals, and they embody our core values as a company, right? And we're allowing that to direct the next few markets that we open up. And that's Atlanta was a perfect example of, we looked at different markets. We have some great relationships in that market, and we're leveraging that to kind of move into that market. So if I'm a new wholesaler and I'm looking to get into opening up a market, that's the question I'm asking myself is, who do I know? And if I don't know anyone, then start reaching out. And the beautiful thing about Facebook and LinkedIn and all these different online resources that are available, it's really easy to kind of make those connections. And then it's just a matter of talking to people, finding out ways in which you can collaborate, and you quickly make those relationships. And you do not need a lot of these relationships. You need like one or two to kind of help you on those first few deals, and then you kind of see where it goes from there. And it's wholesalers, it's buyers. Like for us, it was really actually 2 specific buyers that we connected with that really acted as an extension of our team, and they were just good people. They understood, we're a business, we're trying to make money, but we also want to bring you more deals. And they would go on seller appointments for us. They would take pictures of properties for us. They would, and in exchange, we'd give them a first right of refusal on the deal. But if they didn't want it, then we turn around, we take all that information, then we can promote the deal out to a broader network, right? So lots of different ways to kind of partner with people, right, to get this thing going.
So that's a question. I have 2 questions for you. So if you have a buyer's list and you have some main buyers that you've already worked with, that you've trusted and vetted, do you just market to them first, that whatever deal you get, do you show them first? Or do you try to go for I'm just going to see who can bid the most on the property, and maybe do like an open house, and you might get some young new investor that doesn't know what they're doing and they bid too much, and you make more on the property, but your other buyers are not getting the deals. How do you handle that? You just honor your trusted buyers first? Or?
Good question. And we've debated it, right? Because I think what a lot of wholesalers do is they try to bid up the deal, right?
Yeah.
And we made a decision years ago that that's not how we wanted to operate. We wanted it to be a fair opportunity for our buyers, right? And so, we set a price based on, our assessment of the opportunity and what we feel fits the criteria of our buyers.
Yeah.
We put it out there, and our policy is really the first buyer to make commitment on the deal.
On that price.
At our price gets the deal. And I think, some of our buyers get frustrated because maybe they're not as quick to read our email or our text or what have you. But the majority of people appreciate that approach because it is the fairest way to do it, right? Some people just, like, you imagine going to a walkthrough and there's 10 people and they're bidding up, and next thing you know, you just paid, you get emotionally attached to the process and you've way overpaid for the property. And so, that's how we do it. Right. And so we typically will put the deal in front of some of our key VIPs, right. That we know really well. We've done a bunch of deals with, and they've proven that they perform and that they are responsive. That's a big part of it is, when you're qualifying and building your buyers list, it needs to be a relationship built off of mutual sort of respect. And a lot of buyers, they will tell you kind of what you want to hear, and then they go look at a property and then they don't give you feedback. So how can we do our job, right? So you kind of learn, right? And it's those people that are responsive and they give us the feedback and support we need to do a better job and get them better deals that tend to see our deals first. But we're pretty quick to promote things out. So usually there's like a 24-hour window. And if the deal's not sold, then we'll put it out to our entire distribution, Facebook, and all the other channels where we market our deals.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question for you is, if you were going to start in a new market, doesn't matter what it is, throw a dart in the map. Do you think it's a better approach to start focusing on buyers and then doing, like you were saying, networking with other wholesalers and getting their deals moved or sold? Or do you think it's a better starting point to just start marketing for sellers and worry about buyers later? How would you approach it? Or would you do both at the same time?
Yeah, I think we strongly believe in the idea of like the reverse wholesale model, right? So you kind of start with the end in mind, right? And so, understanding what your buyers are looking for, as specific as possible will help direct your marketing efforts. So I do think it needs to start with at least a foundational understanding of where are investors buying, where's the majority of cash transactions that are occurring in a given market. You kind of look for those pockets, and maybe a few phone calls will quickly give you some guidance on the typical type of property that people are looking for. But I think, in my experience, you kind of find across most markets, there's sort of that avatar, right? And what a lot of these investors are looking for in terms of typical spreads and property size, nothing overly complicated, nothing, that's too small a scope of project. And once you have that, it's kind of, you start finding those opportunities. I think, our experience now is like, you kind of work both in parallel. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest go and spend 6 months to build your buyers list before you start marketing for leads. I wouldn't do that, because you learn by going through both channels, and putting deals in front of buyers is a good way to qualify buyers, and really just figure out how to kind of work this thing. And so I think you kind of work both in tandem, but there's so much, there's a lot of systems out there that can kind of give you that education in terms of, what buyers are looking for without even really speaking to a buyer. Right. And so you can leverage a lot of that to get going.
Yeah, just some of the public information you can see, like you can say number of cash sales and what kind of properties are they.
Yeah,
for sure.
You make some assumptions and then you vet them as you talk to people, but I think more often than not, you'll see there's themes across, all markets. And then obviously when you're selecting a market, it's just looking for some of those really important indicators and population growth and, industries, you're looking for, education, technology, all sorts of industries. And so we look at those factors as well. But a lot of it, honestly, it kind of comes down to the relationships, and where are where are other people going, right? Is a good indication, right? It's like you look at McDonald's, right? And wherever there's a McDonald's, there's like 3 other fast food chains on that same corner, right? And those people, those other companies, whether it be A&W, whatever, they probably weren't looking and doing all their own research. They were probably just looking, where's McDonald's going? I'm just going to follow them, right? So you can piggyback off of a lot of that, and we tend to do the same.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were saying that you do some joint ventures as well with other lenders and real estate agents. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, the joint ventures we've done with realtors have been more, it's sort of like a reciprocal relationship. So for example, we'll have realtors, at least in the past, that would help support us on the acquisition side, right? Where they'd go and walk a property or perhaps represent a showing for us with some of our buyers. And so typically what we would do in those relationships is we would, in exchange for those services, we would send them leads, right? Because obviously a lot of the leads that come into our pipeline are more retail, right? They don't really fit the wholesale off-market type of deal, and that's totally fine, right?
A lot of those,
yeah, the majority, right? And so, we partner with them in that way. Now, there's a lot of realtors that we have strong relationships with that will bring us pocket listings, right? So because they know that we have the ability to perform, and we have buyers that can close quickly and buy distressed property. And so, an agent may get a list and realize, they're just not going to they're going to have a really difficult time putting this thing on the MLS and trying to find a retail buyer because it won't qualify for financing or past inspections or anything else. And so, we'll basically work those deals with them. And in that type of relationship, we're not represented, so we're not taking a buyer's agent fee. So for those agents, in many cases, they're able to get both sides of the commission as well, right? And then we simply just turn around and we'll sign a contract. They know our intentions. We're going to present this to our buyers, and then we'll assign it out as well. So it just comes down to being fully transparent with what your intentions are. And we, even with the sellers, we're the same way. Like the sellers know, if we're looking at this as a serious acquisition for ourselves, we'll tell them. Otherwise, part of our script is we're going to be putting this deal in front of some pre-qualified investors that we work with. And in all likelihood, it's not going to be us that's going to be closing on the deal. It's going to be one of them.
So you tell them right out.
Yeah. We back in the day, we wouldn't, because we kind of didn't really know how to position it with them. And what ends up happening is they find out more often than not. And then that's a really uncomfortable conversation you need to have. So, we set the expectation on the front end. It's all about being transparent with everybody that we work with. And at the end of the day, it's like, we're providing a solution. It's not for everybody, but it works for some folks. And we just kind of try to do what we say we do, right?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what would you say right now is your biggest challenge with your wholesaling business?
Good question. I think taking it to scale, that's part of what we're really focused on right now is, we have a really, I think, solid process. But, as you start to bring more people into the organization, your capacity to spend the time to train and coach and develop and all that, starts to take up a majority of your time. And so, ensuring that you have, the right process, the right people, systems and all that in place so that you can spend the time with people, with the people on your team, I think is a challenge for us. From a marketing perspective, it's one of those things you can never kind of step away. Like you always have to be really close to your KPIs and your reporting across all your verticals. And so I think we do a pretty good job of that. But some of our marketing channels, the first half this year, have not been performing like they were in past years. So we kind of have done a restart with a lot of that. So I don't know, again, I don't think it's a unique kind of challenge. It's just, these are challenges of running a business and you kind of find the special sauce, right? And I don't know that even really exists. It's just always evolving, listening, trying new things, testing, measuring always. And so, that really focused on that. And then I guess the other piece is we are trying to diversify as well, right? So the wholesale business is great, and we want to scale that operation, but we're also now, pushing pretty heavily into acquiring multifamily and syndicating deals. And so, it's kind of as you start to spread yourself across these different opportunities, there's trade-offs. And so constantly, time management and just figuring out, we got to keep things going while we open up and try different markets and different, types of investment strategies. So,
what do you hate the most about wholesaling?
That's a funny question. I don't, it's so much of it is just mindset, right? And the things that I might hate one day don't even fade the next, right? And it's kind of like the challenge, like the challenges never go away, right? They just change, they evolve. And so the things that we stress about now are problems we would have dreamt about 2 years ago. And so,
for sure,
so sometimes, the wholesaling thing can be a little monotonous, right? And it is a system, right? And so it's just making sure that the cog is kind of moving over and over and over. And so that can be a bit tiring at times, but we're also kind of moving towards growing and scaling and bringing on more people and getting better at delegating, those things. And it's allowing us to continually kind of step up and explore, new opportunities. So if anything, it's just, it's staying consistent sometimes is tough. You get those deals that are just all beautifully teed up and then they fall apart. That's like frustrating, but now we kind of, we don't look forward to it, but we kind of expect it. Like there's going to be something, right? It's going to happen, right? Like, we're not going to close every deal, but at all. Like, I think on average we close, I think this last 6 months has been much, we've really improved on that metric, but we're sort of 60, 70, 75% of our deals we're closing now, which is awesome. And I think that's great. Totally in line with the market. I think if you're closing 40, 50% of the contracts you sign as a wholesaler, you should be really happy because that's just the nature of it. So if anything, sometimes I hate, those deals that fall through that you work so hard on, but it's going to happen. You just, you got to go up and do more deals and it becomes less of a pain point.
Yeah, I think you need to not be so tied to the outcome because, like you say, things are going to happen, and a perfect deal, something goes sideways, and you got to figure out how to save it, or maybe you can't save it. But I think that's the thing: is not getting too pumped. Like if you got a great deal, it's such a letdown if it doesn't, go as planned, right? So just kind of level mindset.
And, and again, having a support network, whether it be through masterminds or Facebook communities or other wholesalers you're partnering with, like all of that are ways for you to mitigate that. And so again, like I have a partnership, which is awesome. That helps, and a team, and my wife is amazing. And so I have a great support network, but I get in my head too, just like everybody else. Right. And so you just got to kind of keep putting yourself out there and you'll get through it. Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so from a Canadian perspective again, and sorry, American people that are watching, but what kind of advice would you give someone that's wanting to get going in the States? I mean, because there's some hurdles we've had to cross that other investors don't have to cross. Any advice there? US?
I think so. And I've been having a lot of these conversations lately. I think where a lot of Canadians get hung up is around some of the, just like the logistics and formalities of doing deals cross-border, what sort of entity do I need to be using, and how do I handle taxation, and what are the legal considerations? And what we've found is that so much of that is really just noise. It's almost like you just got to get out there and start talking to sellers, pick a market, start networking with people through social media. You'll quickly kind of build up your network that way. Start marketing. If you don't have money, Craigslist and all those other free sources. It's time, right? If you don't have the money, it's time, right? It's like a direct
one or the other
there, right? And just kind of get out there, and then you kind of figure the other pieces out. What I can offer, in terms of how we do it, and a lot of Canadians kind of are blown away by this, but we actually operate as a Canadian corporation. We operate all of our wholesale business.
Wow.
Canadian corporation. I encourage everybody to seek their own kind of counsel in terms of the best structure. But, we did that here, and we spoke with a bunch of different attorneys, and we have a cross-border accountant. And because we operate and we predominantly just assign contracts, right? We never in the wholesale business take title, right? the way it flows is, we sign contracts as a Canadian entity. It closes, our title company wires us our spread at the closing, and it comes right back into our Canadian corporation, and we file everything that way. So that is like,
I've heard of that.
yeah. And trust me, like, we stress about that like everybody else, and all sorts
That's the number one question I get.
It is, right? And so, again, like, disclaimer, like, people need to figure their own stuff out and make sure they're protected, right? But we've been advised that we can run it that way, and so that's how we've been doing it for years. And we do now have a USC Corp and limited partnership for the purposes of acquiring and holding, right?
Yeah, that's a different.
That's very different. But in terms of straight assignments, that's how we operate. So, but again, like, as we've talked here, it's like you find a few people that can partner and kind of support you through those first few deals. You go through a few deals and you realize, like, it's wholesaling. It's not a complicated business, but it's not easy, right? Like, it's all the other stuff that makes it challenging, the consistency and all that, right? But the model itself is pretty straightforward. Just, you market for deals, you get contracts, and you sell the contracts, right?
Yeah.
And you just learn a bunch of cool stuff and meet great people along the way.
Yeah, I think the biggest skill for wholesaling is more marketing. It's not construction or any of that kind of stuff. It's literally just, how do you figure out the marketing piece, and I guess the negotiation side, sales and marketing. That's what it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man, it's all about people, right? And so there's lots of different training and groups and things like that can kind of help you with that aspect of it. And the marketing is more just trying new things and testing, and if it's not working, change, right? Don't be too,
Don't be stubborn.
don't take too long to make changes if things aren't working out, right?
Yeah. For sure. All right, well, we got, it looks like about 10 minutes left or so. Does anyone on here have any questions at all about anything? There's a box, you can just type them in, and we'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up. Now, just quick, you're doing a lot more in multifamily. Yeah. And I'd love to maybe have you come back and talk exclusively about multifamily, and maybe even how to analyze deals, how to, syndications and that kind of stuff. But just generally, what are you doing in that space?
Yeah. So, our decision to kind of move into multifamily was partially due to kind of our desire, Steve and me, wanting to really build a portfolio, and passive income and all that is big for us.
Yeah,
but
you don't want to just have to wholesale until you're 90, right?
Well, yeah, like, you can build it up and have people running the show, but it's an operating business, right? That's kind of, if you stop, it stops, right? And so, getting the mailbox money coming in month over month is really where, like, the real freedom comes from, right? But I don't want to take away from building a wholesale company, because the opportunities that it presents you in terms of relationships and other, types of investments and stuff is huge, right? But the multifamily thing was, we decided to go there partially because it's what we want, and also because a lot of the investors we work with have kind of told us, they want to participate passively in bigger deals. And so we've wholesaled a bunch of multifamily, but we figured, well, why not try to address both sides of that equation? So we spent some time and money to train, and we're tied into the Commercial Empire Group, which is Tim Bratz out of Florida, and that's where we really kind of got our first real deep dive into multifamily syndications. And now we're just really leveraging the network that we've built, and the relationships that we have to generate leads, underwrite the deals, continually talking with private lenders, syndicating deals. We have a deal, a property in Phoenix right now that we have under contract. It's smaller, it's a 21 unit, but we're going for it. We're going to, we're trying to bring the team, the partnership together to kind of go through, and it's all about a value add for us. So we're looking for, either physically or operationally distressed multifamily properties. We can come in, we can, implement a value add program, leveraging kind of short-term bridge financing and private equity. And then the goal is really to be in a position within a year and a half to refinance the asset onto sort of a longer-term agency style loan, and then pay back all the capital and invest it into the next project. So that's our primary strategy there. And similar to the wholesale, like it's partnerships. Like we're anybody that brings us an opportunity that they hear about, we want to bring them into the deal, right? Either in terms of referral fees or equity in the project. So, for anybody that's listening, if you're aware of any multifamily opportunities, across the country. We're typically looking for 50 plus doors and decent neighborhoods, C plus B class neighborhoods. I'd love to see it and share with you kind of how we syndicate, but definitely we can do a call and I can just break down sort of like the quick snapshot and how we look at deals and there's like the financials, but there's all the other stuff that's really important too. Right. And admittedly we're still learning, but we have, a decent process and we're looking at a lot of deals right now. So we're excited about that.
Very exciting. That's cool. Yeah. That's a completely different,
it's a different beast. It's kind of, it has the potential, and I think it eventually will become its whole an entirely separate business, right? With different team and all of that. But for the time being, I'm kind of leading the charge on that. And I have some other people that kind of support us pretty closely in terms of like underwriting and lead generation and those sorts of things. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I got a couple questions here from someone anonymous. Will you be getting into doing any rehab projects?
Yeah. So we've actually done 2. We did 2 in Austin, and they were profitable. But I think for Steve and I, we just we assessed was it worth it, right? And kind of the way I look at it is it's sort of like it's a time and money formula. So we could do a rehab and maybe it'll take us 3 to 6 months and we'll make 40 to 50 grand, right, on that flip. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we could wholesale maybe 30 or 40, 50 properties. And so you kind of just look at where we're spending our energy, our time, and we just kind of decided, doing flips, at least virtually, wasn't something, that we were wanting to do, right? It was tough. We had a great partner in Austin who was a part of our team at the time. And so we had that. But for us, I'd rather spend the time and money just doing more wholesale deals, right?
Well, it's just so much less risk.
Less risk,
similar profit, right?
Yeah. And again, it's not, if part of our strategy is, obviously we want to get more involved in education, we want to really push into passive income stuff. Mm-hmm. Flipping wasn't really aligned, right? It just, at least right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us. So our focus is wholesaling, getting the multifamily thing really up and running, and then, finding more ways to collaborate and impact and help other investors and wholesalers. So that's kind of where our focus is.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Jaden asks, I'm developing relationships with realtors for pocket listings in my area in Seattle to Bellingham, Washington. Could I reach out to some deals with you if I lock in some contracts?
For sure. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
You could actually drive down there and see those.
Yeah, that would be different. It's funny because Steve, my business partner, who really, he heads all of the sales for our company and is really close to the acquisition. He's never physically stepped foot in a property that we've purchased, right? It's just kind of hilarious when you think about it, right? Yeah. But it would be kind of fun to have the opportunity to maybe actually go drive down and look at one of these deals, and
kind of fun just to touch and smell and see.
Yeah, for sure. Like definitely something to be said about that. But absolutely. Yeah. Again, like we know some great people in that market too, that can kind of help us locally if needed, but really like we're not limited nationally, just, again, like you said, the network, it's a relatively small continent, really. Like the people, like there's key players in each market. And if you tie into the right groups, you really quickly make those relationships. And so there, our ability to kind of do a deal in pretty much any decent primary, secondary market, like we feel really good about that. So would love to talk about the deal and help you analyze it and you name it.
Okay. Yeah. So Jaden, what I'll do is I'll post all of the contact information for both companies, really.
Yeah.
And we can just figure out what works. And that leads me to a good question. What's the best way to reach out to you guys, Josh?
Yeah. Well, I definitely to try to connect with everybody on Facebook, right? Personally, and encourage people to check out our Facebook page, right? Tallbridge Investments. Because again, we post a lot of, it's shifting more and more away from advertising our deals to actually providing content about our JV program, how we analyze multifamily, and just trying to, again, provide more and more value through that channel. So Facebook's a great way. Email, obviously, Josh at Tallbridge Investments is my email. And so anyone can email me at any time. And then our website, there's forms for days on every page there, so you can contact us through one of those forms. And if someone's specifically interested in learning about kind of how we partner, there's a page there, Tallbridge Investments /partner. And you go there and we talk a little bit about our joint venture program, and there's a way for people to contact us, and you can even submit your deals directly through the website. That brings them into our CRM backend. It tasks to our team to underwrite the deal. And usually we're back in touch within a business day with our assessment on whether we think we can help sell the deal. And then we kind of go from there. So.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so whether you're watching this on YouTube or in the meetup group, I'll provide all of the contact info so you can get in touch with Josh and maybe do some deals that way. So, all right. So I guess last chance for questions. I'll give it a couple minutes, but otherwise, man, it's been fun. I really appreciate you coming on, and I love talking to you.
Appreciate it.
It's nice to talk to someone that's in Canada that has the same struggles, but it's also been really successful, because it's really encouraging for people just starting out to see some of you guys and how you're crushing it. Because I find a lot of people, it's a dream or an idea, but it just seems so hard to get going when it's a different country. And really, it's just taking action. It's no different than investing in Canada. You just got to start doing it, right? Like you say, you just got to start talking to sellers and go after it. So.
And there's such a, for Canadians, there's such a massive opportunity to tap into this, right? And so that's part of the story that we want to share with people is you got to overcome a few of those kind of mind blocks, right? And fears that you might have, but you very quickly realize, I said at the beginning, like those are kind of blessings, right? So doing this virtually, we're not spending 4 hours a day in a car driving to and from appointments and all that. We're able to really kind of operate this thing more strategically, and there's all sorts of resources and great people out there to help you do deals. So just got to get out there and start talking to people, and things will quickly start to change.
Well, that's the advantage we have, is like if we can build a business where we can do this in the middle of February in Canada, then we also have all the structure to do it from any tropical place
exactly
in the world.
Yes.
We're building a remote business from the get-go. So I think there's advantages for that for sure.
Yeah. My business partner's, his happy place is Hawaii. So I will not be surprised if he gets up and moves to Hawaii at some point in the future. So, but that's it. That's all part of the vision. So awesome.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. And like I said, love to get you back to talk multifamily sometime.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, good luck. And
thank you.
Looking forward to doing more, maybe even doing deals with you.
Yes.
With the people in my group, maybe reach out to you and do some JVs as well. So that'd be huge.
Great. Well, thanks, Kyle. I appreciate you having me.
All right. And thanks, guys, for taking some time out in your afternoon to watch this. Take care.
See you later.